Hello there my Jedi and Sith friends, and welcome back to another Star Wars video. It is I coming at you once again, your friend and your favourite galactic hostess, Star Wars Meg. Oh boy, you already know what we're talking about today. We just got the first 2 episodes of Maul Shadow Lord, Lucasfilm Animation's latest offering, which all of the early reviewers have been ranting and raving about. The first impressions that I covered the other day sounded very good, and so I was really excited. So I woke up, I went in blind, and I watched both. Now, as I do with most Star Wars shows when they first drop, I did a couple of rewatches, not just because the obvious reason you don't always catch everything the first time round, but sometimes I get a different impression on that second watch. And lo and behold, with Maul Shadow Lord that was exactly the case. There are a couple of nuances that I didn't fully appreciate until I went back and rewatched the episodes. So it goes without saying, my friends, I have a lot of thoughts. This video is my honest review and breakdown of Episode 1, The Dark Revenge, and Episode 2, Sinister Schemes. I'm going to be going back and forth, I'm going to do some broad stroke stuff, we're going to go through the story and certain themes, certain moments that need highlighting, a few references and callbacks, and so as you're going to see, it's more of an all-inclusive review. But going into it, I was expecting great things. Dave Filoni teased George Lucas's influence, bringing some of his unused sequel treatments into this, and so I was never going to go light on it. It had to blow me away. I know, that might not be the most popular thing to say, but when it's been hyped like this, I expected greatness. And I have to say, I was very impressed. I reckon when all is said and done, this is going to be a great and well-remembered animated show. I've only seen the first 2, like I said, that's way too small of a sample to make any broad judgments at this point, but it's very encouraging. And right off the bat, I have to say this. Lucasfilm Animation is actually taking risks. The impression I got is that they're trying to show us what Lucasfilm Animation can be when you incorporate the maturity of something akin to Andor, combined with the dark and gritty underworld of the Star Wars universe. And in this way, I can't believe I'm saying this, but Maul Shadow Lord succeeds where the Book of Boba Fett failed. The Mafia-style conflicts, the brutality, so far I'm very, very impressed. It goes without saying though that the best part of these 2 episodes are the visuals. I thought the show looked good in the trailers, but some of these shots are just gorgeous. And with that, let's talk about the story itself. The setting for the show is the planet of Janx, a world I would describe as a hybrid of Coruscant and Daiyu from the Kenobi show, but so far Janx has been mostly unaffected by Sidious's imperial regime. That's gonna change soon enough though when the authorities can't get the crime problem under control. This was teased in the trailers, and in a bit of dialogue from 2 Boots in episode 2. But as I said, Janx was in part influenced by Coruscant. This goes back to a lot of George Lucas's plans for the post-Order 66 galaxy, but it's important to note there are some crucial differences, because I've already seen fans say, well, why isn't this Coruscant? Were they just trying to be cutesy and clever and create a Coruscant adjacent planet and call it something else? Well, the answer is no, because Coruscant is a planet of extremes. Its dark underbelly is mostly hidden in the lower levels, whereas Janx couldn't be more different. Its darker side is on full display. Even under daylight, it appears bleak and worn, revealing an entire planet dominated by gangs and a shady underworld. The crime on Janx is no secret, and as I saw one reviewer say, if Coruscant embodies Metropolis, then Janx is Gotham. And we're 1 year into the Empire, 1 year post-Clone Wars, and the show focuses on 4 main parties which converge. The first being 2 Jedi survivors of Order 66, Padawan Devon Azara and her master Iko Diodaki. They've been struggling to survive. They're dirty, they're tired, and they're starving, having to rely on the kindness, or lack thereof, of strangers for scraps of food and credits. When Devon Azara suggested they steal the fruit, the Jedi Master refused and reverted back to begging, and he was greeted with the most unpleasant Ichuta. No one's looking out for each other, these Jedi are struggling to survive, and they're at their wits' end, and that's very important, because you already sense that Devon, the young Padawan who lost everything she ever knew, is already close to her breaking point. The second party are the local crime syndicates. The third is Maul, and his party, which includes 2 henchmen and a handful of Mandalorians led by Rook Kast, a Maul loyalist and sycophant. She was once the person who led the Shadow Collective Super Commandos. Maul's gang has been causing chaos on Janx through various heists. These are part of Maul's wider plan to get revenge over the crime syndicates who wronged him. After his fight against Ahsoka, he kind of went off the grid, and the Shadow Collective dispersed. More on this in just a moment, but the fourth party in the show is Captain Lawson, a local workaholic police detective, someone who is just learning about the influence and threat of Maul. He wants to know what his aims are, why he's got what he calls a laser sword, his lightsaber, and how he can restore harmony on Janx. And all four parties do converge after Maul seeks to regain the prominence he once held in the underworld. But another key reason he's ended up on Janx is because he was guided by a vision of his future apprentice, who Maul kidnaps from a Janx prison cell that she was held in for theft and failure to present documents. Maul recognizes her potential, but also the harrowing fact, at least in his eyes, that she was trained and indoctrinated by the Jedi, held back from her full potential. And one of the central motifs when Devon is Maul's captive is escaping her mental chains. It's a fun twist on Qui-Gon's quote, "Your focus determines your reality." Maul is playing on her fear and her pain, but is also shaping her for his purposes. And it's working. With Devon escaping on her own, she has started to break those chains, which is exactly what Maul wants. And now, essentially, she's gained her first lesson. All the while, her real Jedi Master senses a disturbance in the Force. We know from the trailers she will go back to him, but how long is that really gonna last? But let's not get ahead of ourselves. Earlier, I mentioned the Shadow Collective. They're briefly referenced in the first episode, and then in episode 2, Rena Sol offers Brandon Lawson a bit more context. And if you know the Clone Wars seasons 5 to 7, then you're already familiar with this group. As Rena said, it was an alliance of crime syndicates that fell apart after Maul disappeared following the war. As you might imagine though, that explanation barely scratches the surface. Maul and his brother Savage set out to forcibly unite the galaxy's major crime syndicates. This alliance brought together the likes of Black Sun, the Pikes, and the Hutts. With this power behind them, Maul and Death Watch succeeded in retaking Mandalore. Maul then became the leader of the planet by winning the Darksaber. Eventually though, Bo-Katan led a campaign to reclaim Mandalore, but this prompted Darth Sidious to personally intervene, and during his visit, Sidious killed Savage, though Maul still managed to hold on to power. Despite this, the Hutts withdrew from the Shadow Collective and never returned. Then later on, Crimson Dawn joined the alliance. This was followed by the Siege of Mandalore, where Ahsoka confronted Maul, and with Maul captured, the Shadow Collective fell apart. However, as revealed by his unexpected appearance in Solo, we know that Maul's influence was still huge as the leader of Crimson Dawn. This show is filling in that gap between the Clone Wars and Solo, and this is the period of time where Maul is back, trying to re-establish dominance and instill fear into the various syndicate leaders. And it seems as though, in his absence, a familiar name has tried to take his place. Marg Krim, a Pike leader from Dark Disciple and the Clone Wars Season 7. And by the way guys, in the first 2 episodes there is a lot of influence from the comics, notably the planet where the Pikes are confronted. It looks a lot like the terrain of Zanbar from Son of Dathomir. So what did I make of these episodes? It's a very promising start. It's really hard to judge 2 of 10 episodes because, things are just picking up. We need to spend a bit more time with this story, so that's why my review might differ from those who've seen the first 8 episodes, those who got screeners. I didn't, and so honestly, I can only judge based on the first 2, and they're very solid. The new characters are very interesting, the world feels alive, there's a bit of fun with the droids in this show, but above all else, I have to say the pacing is incredibly efficient. This is something I especially noticed on my rewatch, that the show doesn't waste time. I do wish the episodes were a bit longer though, but in that first episode, everyone is introduced very quickly, and the action gets going right from the off. But in terms of comparisons to other Star Wars animated projects, I can't say this is my favourite opening. I still have to give that to the Bad Batch, but like I said, a very encouraging start, and I feel like I'm going to grow to love this series. I had a lot of fun, I need to see more of it though, and I'm so excited for episodes 3 and 4. Those are some of my first impressions though guys. What did you think? And if you enjoyed this one, please be sure to give me a big fat thumbs up, subscribe if you're new, and may the Force be with you always.